Hey everyone, CW Music Reviews here. I'm CWD, and this is going to be a music review of the new The Claypool Lennon Delirium album, The Monolith of Phobos. This is the debut full-length album of super duo consisting of Les Claypool and Sean Lennon. Les, I'm pretty familiar with, certainly. He's been a pivotal figure for this really weird alternative sound when he fronted Primus. Add to that, he's probably one of the greatest bass players of all time. He pretty much has his own unique style that is pretty unmistakable, whether he's slapping the bass or just regularly playing the bass or even riffing with the bass. And the other half of this is Sean Lennon, multi-instrumentalist, producer, singer-songwriter, known for his collaborations with the Plastic Ono Band, as well as his own solo projects under his own name, as well as, I believe, Sabertooth Tiger. So the two of them coming together was particularly interesting. They're both artists that definitely like to do their own thing in a way. They most certainly have their own standalone and niche-ish following, and them two collaborating together would definitely lead to interesting results. So, does it? It certainly does, but to me this album feels like just a mishmash of their two respective styles and not so much the two coming together to make something unique under this group duo pseudonym. This album is about 11 tracks in length, about 50 minutes long. It certainly doesn't feel like it's 50 minutes in length. I'm certainly enjoying a good bit of the ideas going on here. In terms of performances, the chemistry here is certainly there. They definitely play off of each other really well. Claypool obviously is doing his unique bass thing, whether it's the electric bass or on the closing track he has an acoustic bass going on. He also contributes vocals as well as mellotron here. Lennon, on the other hand, brings drums and guitar as well as other forms of percussion, as well as some more mellotron. And it all certainly sounds like they're playing off of each other really well. They're definitely working together particularly well. It's not like one is doing more than the other. Though I can't say the same for some of the tracks that seem Claypool-centric or Lennon-centric. On the former, you have the track Mr. Wright, which is one of my favorite tracks on the album. It's got this kind of mid-paced groove to it. The bass is highlighted here. There's some really off-kilter organ or mellotron. It's probably mellotron. And Claypool is really singing this kind of creepy, bluesish style verses about Mr. Wright and how he's spying on you. He likes to watch you shower, he likes to watch you dance, he likes to watch you sleep, he even likes to watch you pee. He's trembling with glee. It's a genuinely funny track, certainly. But the issue with this track I have is the fact that it seems like something that could have easily been on a Primus album, but worked in such a way that Lennon is on this track. And the opposite seems to be true of the track Boomerang Baby, which is not really a highlight for me on the album. There's some drone bass starting out here. The instrumentation here is mid-paced and kind of patience testing. It does have a nice build, but instrumentally it doesn't really go anywhere. And it kind of meanders lyrically as well, starting off as this song about desensitization amongst the newer generation. How there's so much stimulation and yet they're bored. They've got all these friends but they feel alone. And then it just kind of meanders into territory that doesn't really align with what it was going with in the beginning of the track. Breath of a Salesman, another example of this being a more Claypool-centric track. While yeah, it's got a nice guitar lick going on, certainly, and it definitely showcases Lennon's talent on guitar, the track itself still feels like a Primus track, with its eccentric and swaggerish vibe, along with the overall bass-centric sound going on. Yeah, it just harkens way too much to like a Primus track. Plus the lyrics about the rejection of like all these ideologies and other people trying to like spread them instead of just letting people be their own selves seems kinda underdeveloped in a way. Along with the track Oxycontin Girl, which again feels like a Primus track. Although I do like the lyrical sentiment on this track about how prescription drugs are killing people in a way, pretty much revolving around this one girl that is abusing a lot of Oxycontin and she ends up turning blue. One thing I do like about this track is Claypool's like vocal delivery on like these refrain bits. Who's gonna drive her to the ER? There's definitely highlights that suggest that when they do sound like that they're legitimately working together on a track and actually, you know, formulating something for the Claypool Lennon Delirium, it certainly ends up being incredibly positive results. Take the opening track, the Monolith of Phobos, which sounds like if the band Earth did like space rock, or maybe they did do space rock, I don't know. Get at me if they did do some space rock, because I'm interested in that. There's like a spacey intro going on that seems kind of like a Desert on Mars-ish type thing, or rather the moon, since this track is in relation to Buzz Aldrin's comments when he was on the moon about seeing this Monolith of Phobos. Eventually it picks up and like really progresses well with some like spacey vocal snippets, or maybe that's some kind of mellotron, but regardless it's definitely a nice adage to the track. There's also my favorite track on the album, Captain Lariat. It's got kind of a sailor-ish vibe going on with like these rumbling drums and this like low-key but kind of nautical guitar chords going on. And it's a funny track about like this individual that's like so delusional that he feels like a captain even though he's never held commission. And his idea of like changing the world or making a mark in the world is getting a tattoo of Sean Penn and infuriating the right wing in politics. He's not really doing much of anything so much as he's just being a hooligan in a way. Plus this track has one of my favorite bridges on the entire album where it just breaks into this jam that I like a lot. There's also the track Ohmerica. While lyrically I'm not like 100% into it, I do like the sentiment about how modern day America is kind of regressing in a way, where if you don't really agree with what the government's doing, they'll wiretap your phone and then drone you. It just seems like it's kind of basic in a way. I do like how funny it gets, like if you don't shop, the terrorists win, but yeah, it's just not winning me over in terms of lyricism completely, but I still do like the lyrics. I do like the instrumental on this track. It's definitely mid-paced, and the hook is breathtakingly funny in a way. Claypool pretty much going, "Oh, America." And then there's the track Bubbles Burst, which is easily the best track that is pretty much a sentiment for Bubbles the chimpanzee that Michael Jackson owned for a little while. It's nice and spacey, it's nice and ballad-like, it's pretty much a space ballad in a way, I guess, about the tragedy of Bubbles being bought as just a few months old, and then he just grows up as like this dandy, or as the way Lennon puts it in a way. I also like how this track bleeds into the closing track, There's No Underwear in Space. While it's not really a favorite of mine, it definitely like closes off in the spacey vibe I feel like Lennon and Claypool wanted to make initially, but they seem to got sidetracked in the middle. Because honestly, I really did want them to make a space rock album. Given the tracks Monolith of Phobos and Bubbles Burst and the closing track, There's No Nowhere in Space, they seem to be really good at making like tracks that are spacey and really psychedelic in that regard. And maybe they will make a space rock album next time, and I'm looking forward to if they do, especially since I like this album overall. While there's only a select handful of tracks I can honestly say are great, there's not really a bad track on this album. If you're a fan of both artists already, you'll definitely want to check this out. I certainly hope it's not a one-off thing because I do enjoy this album quite a bit. It's just that it kind of gets lost in terms of like concept and sound around the middle point. Add to that, this seems more like a mishmash of two separate ideas and not like two musicians collaborating together and coming up with something unique and standalone. This album is a plus 1.7 out of plus 3. This was definitely an intriguing release. This was definitely a good release for the month of June. However, I'm just not that into it, unfortunately. But if you've given this album a listen, what'd you think of it? Did you like this album? Did you dislike this album? What was your reason for that, and which I consider listening to and reviewing next? This CWD Music Reviews here, signing off.